This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect.
There are people out there who have made money in this field and who want to donate it. Some people are very utopian about it. So a lot of things change, but the fundamentals are the same. So I think it's an opportunity.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Elisa Shoenberger, research consultant at Aspire Research Group, LLC. Hello, Elisa. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
I'm really glad to be here today.
So before we dive into what's happening with cryptocurrency, I'm wondering if you would mind sharing a little bit about your career and how you found yourself in prospect research at Aspire.
I started working in nonprofits after I graduated from my master's program, and I worked at a museum in their development operations office. And so I knew vaguely that there was this concept of prospect research. I've been working in the nonprofit sector for over a decade, but specifically fundraising for the last 10 years. I started at Loyola as a prospect management and research analyst. And after a couple of years there, I went on to do benchmarking at fundraising consulting firm and found my way to Aspire thanks to APRA and other events where I met Jen. And
Here you are.
Yes.
And we get to talk about crypto. So we get to have a lot of fun here at Aspire.
We do.
There's been a lot happening in crypto, and people and nonprofits have stayed far away from cryptocurrency, and probably for a lot of reasons, but also because of its volatility, goes up and down like crazy, and because it's been a bit of the Wild West. Lots of hacking and stealing of currencies is going on. What, if anything, has changed in the past year or so?
Volatility has always been a part of crypto as far as we've seen. Bitcoin has jumped up and down, and that in itself isn't new, but we've really seen that volatility maybe skyrocket. We've seen, the collapses of some exchanges. There was a concern that some of the major companies in this field were going to just go bankrupt. There were a lot of people who were worried, and, lots of sort of anecdotal evidence of people, being devastated by losing all their money. So there's no question that there are risks with cryptocurrency. My recommendations are the same from before sort of this big era of volatility and now, which is basically, I wouldn't invest my life savings in it. I wouldn't invest more than I can personally handle if I lose it all. But in terms of the opportunities there for nonprofits, I don't think that has changed. I mean, maybe there's not as much money right now, where there's a perception of keeping hold of the money, which is not so good for philanthropy. But I don't think cryptocurrency is going away. And I think there's opportunity there. And any way we can get money in the doors that's based on ethics and due diligence is good. There are people out there who have made money in this field and who want to donate it. Some people are very utopian about it. So a lot of things change, but the fundamentals are the same. So I think it's an opportunity. Now, that being said, it sounds like we've got some interesting things on the horizon. I mean, I'm always been a big fan of regulation, and we're going to see more of that, especially given the more and more scams are unveiled. There's going to be, I think, a bigger scrutiny. And I know that there's been some cases this year, like the Justice Department was able to use blockchain to track down some people who are using crypto for money laundering. So one of the benefits of blockchain and crypto is this transparency to a certain degree. And here we've got a situation where they're able to follow the money through blockchain. There's also, another case, I think from May, where they went after someone for sending crypto to a restricted country, which right now we have laws that highly restrict the transfer of money to countries that we may not have the best relations with, like Cuba, Iran. And someone was kind of hoping to use that as a loophole, and he got hammered on it. So I think that these are just little tiny glimpses at what we might start seeing in the future. I mean, a lot of people like the appeal of the fact that it's not regulated, but that can cause a lot of problems. And I always think regulation is better than none.
Our government has been pretty slow to enact any regulation. Is there anything you can share about what's happening there?
Well, I think that's just unfortunately the response in general to, any changes. The laws always kind of struggle to catch up. I mean, we've seen this already with social media where, people are being doxxed or piled on Twitter and other social media forums, and judges are telling people, well, just stay off Twitter. And we don't really have the laws to address those kinds of issues. Like, we need to update them. So it isn't surprising to me that crypto hasn't had the same level of regulation. I mean, it's fascinating because I started reading a book on the founder of Ether, I forget his name, but it made the case that the person who's wrote the paper behind crypto, he did it sort of in the period when we had the financial downturn in 2008, when, giant mortgage foreclosure crisis, Lehman Brothers going under, and it was sort of seen as kind of this reaction to big government oversight that didn't work, and sort of putting power into people. And so, yeah, I can see, how people would be attracted to that, but obviously you have inherent issues with that. It's not surprising at all that crypto hasn't been as regulated, and I think we're going to see more and more of that in the future.
When we talk about volatility and hearing you talk about it, it reminds me that the stock market has a lot of volatility. And before the SEC came into being as the Securities and Exchange Commission came into being as the regulator, there were plenty of people who lost their shirts investing because there was a lot of scam going on, misleading advertising. I wonder if we're going to see like some legendary new agency created to regulate these cyber currencies and other digital investing vehicles.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because right now crypto is not considered a security, it's considered property. So it wouldn't by definition be under the SEC, but I think it shares more in common with stocks and whatnot than, say, real estate. I mean, there's this really great article from Harvard Business Review from last month, What Skeptics Get Wrong About Crypto's Volatility. I mean, it's worth reading on its own, but what I really thought was fascinating was the idea that, this is a new industry. It's maybe a little over 10 years old, but like really picked up steam in the last 5 years, 7 years. And with any new venture, you're going to have that volatility. You're going to have the ups and downs, or it's going to take a while for profitability. I find that oftentimes the strengths are also the weaknesses. People who love crypto love talking about the transparency and the opportunities there. Well, that also means that, if things are going sour, it's more likely to be seen. And so it's kind of, kind of like a vicious cycle in that respect. I mean, I do think we're going to see coins become dead coins. I think we're going to see some kind of rise above the others. But, until they go bankrupt, the story's not done. Two comparisons that I like. So John Taylor, a consultant that I've interviewed for several articles, he put it this way. He recalls having to convince an advancement services office to accept Discover Card. Like, it's just another giving vehicle from that perspective. But sort of in terms of like the financial sector as a whole, as opposed to the philanthropic, we had this giant financial crisis as a result of ratings companies, subprime mortgages and all that. Like, we had these financial instruments that people played around with and made lots of money, and a lot of people lost their shirts. We still have rating agencies. I do not think that this is something that's just going to disappear. I think it's going to continue. I don't think it's going to continue in the current way it is. We're going to see more regulation, probably fewer coins. You're going to probably the Bitcoins and the Ether are going to probably kind of rise to the top where they are already. It's bumpy starting a new industry. And if an industry is based on transparency, it's going to even look bumpier. Don't invest your life savings or more than you can afford.
Sound advice. And speaking of it not going away, if a nonprofit wants to accept cryptocurrency as a gift, what are some of the options out there for nonprofits?
I think the one that's probably best known is Giving Block. So from what I understand, and I have never worked at a nonprofit that has gone through the process of getting crypto. So this is based on from my research that you could become a charity sort of in their system. And then that can be, they can give you like a QR code that gives you kind of the way you can donate directly. There are a couple other ones out there that I've seen, like givecrypto.org is another way to be able to give crypto to a charity. I don't know if it's like Giving Block where you probably have to have like a sign up, which I can't imagine how that would work without that. And then one that I just found out about called Daffy, and it looks like it has something to do with donor advised funds in crypto. The one that I've heard the most about is Giving Block.
And if they choose Giving Block, is Giving Block actually accepting the gift and selling it and delivering the cash to them, or does something else happen?
You can accept crypto through them and you can donate crypto through them. I don't know if they convert it for you. That's probably a choice, which would make sense because some organizations are going to have rules on how they're going to treat these donations. The best practice is to sell it immediately, especially during times of volatility. I can see the value in that. But sometimes you may have a donor who wants you to hold on to it, and you have to kind of figure out how that works.
So before I let you go, do you have a favorite resource on cryptocurrency or a favorite expert that you follow to keep current?
I would highly recommend for people who want to understand a little bit more about crypto, but in a easy to understand and how it relates to philanthropy, the book Bitcoin and the Future of Fundraising by Ann Connolly and Jason Shim is an excellent resource. I think it really does a nice job of laying out the case and sort of giving a non-technical explanation for how it works. It's not going to go into the coding and stuff, but it's going to give you kind of an overview so you can talk about it intelligently. I also like following the Chronicle of Philanthropy because they do keep a sort of an eye on what's happening in crypto, in philanthropy as a whole. Yeah, those would be my favorite sources. Forbes, your kind of traditional business websites might also keep an eye on it in general, not specific to philanthropy.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and to talk about cryptocurrency.
That was Elisa Shoenberger, research consultant at Aspire Research Group, LLC. Elisa is the cryptocurrency expert at our firm, and if you liked the conversation today, I encourage you to become a Prospect Research Institute member and join us on September 15th, 2022 for a masterclass on cryptocurrency and fundraising trends. Gain access to some great materials and even better conversation with us and your peers from all kinds of nonprofit organizations and institutions. And I have to add, because I can't help myself, that you want to come because crypto doesn't have to be cryptic. See you soon. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with powerful resources, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member of the learning community. See you there.